Chapter 1 The Forest at Morning. Nothing invited her in, quite like the morning. She loved the feeling of fog. The denser, the better. Her favorite mornings were the ones where the fog fell so heavy it blocked her own hand from vision when she stretched her arm out in front of her and waved it. Each step would reveal a surprise waiting just in front of her that she could not see until it was upon her. There was just something about the uncertainty of it that made her feel the most alive. This was, unfortunately, not one of those mornings. Instead, the fog floated moderately before her, only partially obscuring the view of her destination. The fallen twigs snapped beneath her feet as she walked towards the cottage she shared with her mother, Rosalind. The trees towered above her and beside her, nearly engulfing the path hole. She could see her breath blending with the foggy air. Up ahead, the path faded away into unmarked forest, and if you didn't know better, you would think that was the end of it. Adia held her basket tightly as she grasped the fallen tree and pulled herself up and over. She smiled as she looked onward at the cascading weeping willow. The branches hung across the entire unmarked path, its leaves hanging down like a soft, living curtain. She softly stroked the hanging leaves. "Good morning, Willow," she whispered. "I've brought home wonderful treats." Adia lifted her basket. It was full of forest fungi she had gathered. Mother should be very happy. Adia pushed the strands of the leaves aside, revealing a forest clearing. In the center sat a simple cottage, stone and wood. It wasn't much, but Adia adored it. She stomped her feet on the second wood step of the porch to loosen the dirt collected by the morning dew before entering. Her mother was already up and lighting a fire. Rosalind heard the welcome sound of her daughter and turned to smile at her. There was no doubt of their relation. Looking at Adia was like peering into a past version of herself. Their most notable feature was the eyes. The Arcos family's eyes were unmistakable. Deepest emerald green. One glance from an Arcos woman would leave you mesmerized. Their unique gaze was amplified by an abundance of flowing hair and perfect porcelain skin. Her beauty complemented graciously by her kind demeanor and optimistic perception of life. Adia returned the smile and excitedly rushed over. "Mother," she shouted, lifting her basket, "I found so many mushrooms." Rosalind chuckled as she took the basket from her. "Thank you, Adia. These are perfect and plenty." "The forest was beautiful today," Adia proclaimed as she pulled a chair from the table to sit. "It was quite chilly, but the birds were all singing and the fog was mostly thick. I could see 5 steps ahead, but not 10. Rosalind laughed, amused by Adia's thoughts. They were normally incredibly unusual, and she often found joy in what most would find inconvenient or bothersome. In fact, of all the things her mother loved about her, Adia's ability to find the unseen benefit, no matter how impossible it seemed, was the most impressive. "I found a dead tree by the creek, and I had this feeling. I just knew there were mushrooms, so I leaned over top of it, and there they were." Rosalind shook her head, amused. "You should be more careful, Adia," Rosalind warned. "The creek is very cold this time of year. If you fall in, it will take the breath from you." Adia coyly smiled and stood up straight. "I'm far smarter than that," she declared confidently. "I wedged my foot into one of the broken branches so I wouldn't slip in." Rosalind tilted her head and gave her daughter a suspicious stare. "I know you are an intelligent girl, but I still want you to be careful," she warned in her motherly tone. "You are somewhat clumsy." Rosalind unintentionally glanced over at the bare table a cloth once covered. It was a beautiful tapestry, a gift from a townswoman she had helped, Mira. Mira was a widow. Her husband passed 2 years prior, leaving her and their 6-year-old daughter Beatrix behind. One night, Rosalind awoke to frantic pounding on her cottage door. She opened it to find Mira with a pale and lifeless-looking Beatrix in her arms. Rosalind gathered them inside and hurriedly ran her hands over the small girl's body. She soon discovered the girl was suffering with a fever, putting her into a deep sleep resembling death. Mira begged Rosalind for help. Adia could remember the hesitation in her mother. The gift of healing wasn't given to every witch. Rosalind was one of the ones it was. There were always two types of healing available to her mother, but there was only one that was allowed to be used on humans. Healing witches were free to use their knowledge of herbs, crystals, and other natural elements to create healing tonics and tinctures, but under no circumstances could a healing witch use her more hidden powers to heal a human. It was forbidden. Rosalind consistently followed the rules. She concocted herbal remedies for the townspeople and was respected for it. Unfortunately, Beatrix was too far gone for any herb to fix. Adia remembered the last thing her mother said before she broke the rules. "It's too late for feverfew." Rosalind then looked over at a frightened Adia. She stared for more than a moment before she nodded her head. Tears fell from her eyes as she leaned over the small dying child. Mira knelt beside her silently. Rosalind closed her eyes and placed hands over Beatrix's head. Small streams of light began trickling down Rosalind's arms, eventually exiting her fingertips. The drops of light fell onto the small child's face, melting into her pale skin. Mira gasped and covered her mouth as she watched in bewilderment. So did Adia. This was the first time she had ever witnessed her mother use actual magic. The kind not born of this earth, the kind no human possesses. Adia and Mira looked on in amazement as the soft yellow flecks of light spread across Beatrix, each one glowing brightly orange before returning to yellow and slowly fading. The color began to return to Beatrix's face, and after the last speck of light disappeared, she slowly opened her eyes. Rosalind opened her eyes as well. "Beatrix?" she softly called. "Can you hear me?" Beatrix blinked a few times before answering, her tiny voice hoarse. "Yes, I can hear you." "Oh my goodness, Beatrix!" Mira screeched as she reached past Rosalind and lifted her child to embrace her. "My precious girl, are you all right?" Beatrix stared over at Rosalind. "Mommy, is she an angel?" Mira turned to look at Rosalind as well. "Thank you so much," she cried. "You have no idea what you've done for me." Rosalind gently touched the grateful mother's arm. "I do," she replied, "and you're welcome." After the mother and child left the cottage, Rosalind sat at the table in clear contemplation. Adia sat with her and cautiously took her hand. "That was a good thing, Mother," she comforted. "You saved that child's life." Rosalind turned to face her. "It's almost funny, you know," she calmly replied. "We have these powers we aren't allowed to use, and I understand why, but then why give healers unwavering empathy along with them?" Adia was confused, but she had to ask, "What do you mean?" But her mother just shook her head before leaning in to kiss Adia's forehead. She kept holding the side of her daughter's face as she retreated back. "If anything ever happens to me, I need you to remember that you're my daughter, and that we do the right thing, even when it's hard, even if it may hurt us." The next morning, Rosalind found a gift at her door. It was a table linen made from fine silk. The edges were delicate lace with a floral pattern. The center was embroidered with a yellow rose encircled by olive green vines. It was a linen far richer than their humble decor, but Rosalind proudly spread it over the table. Adia promptly caught it on fire a few days later by accidentally tipping a candle. Now their table stood bare and plain. Adia noticed her mother's stare. "Do you need me to go to town today, Mother?" she asked, ashamed. "I can get a new cloth for the table while I'm there." "Adia, I've told you I'm not upset about the table linen. You don't have to replace it," Rosalind insisted. Adia tapped her fingers on the tabletop. "I know that's what you say, Mother, but I would still like to get you something." For a girl of almost 16, Adia was quite responsible. When she made a mistake, she wanted to repair the damage done, and had no issue holding herself accountable, sometimes to a fault. "Fine. If you want to go to town, go ahead. Just be back before dark," Rosalind stood and gave her daughter another kiss on the forehead. I love you more than everything. Adia closed her eyes, taking in her mother's warmth. I love you with everything I am, she replied.